The following program is recorded content created by the Truth Network.
For months and weeks, you were deluged with messages about get out and vote, go vote, vote your faith, vote your values. Well, one of the culprits, one of the people behind that, standing in the crosshairs right next to me, is one of my heroes, mentors, man of God, who heads up the association, the National Religious Broadcasters, an esteemed group of folks that stand for religious liberty, that have been putting these messages out that we've been running all over our radio stations, the Truth Network, and all over AFR and so many great folks, Wilkins, Salem, that carry this radio show. I'm Stu Everson. I'm standing next to Troy Miller, the president of the NRB. Troy, all those messages, man. What do you say to all the people out there about what happened? I mean, some people are upset because they really wanted Kamala Harris to be in, and others are very happy because they wanted Donald Trump. But it is not a time to rub it into people's face. It's really a sobering moment, and it could be a chance for America to pivot in the right direction. Talk to us, sir.
Well, it is a sobering moment, and it is a time for America to pivot. And we have to remember that as Christians, first of all, I want to thank all the Christians who did get out there and vote. There was a record number of turnout for Christians this year, and there was a record number of Christians that turned out and voted on a lot of the right candidates on a lot of issues out there. And so that's very important. As Christians, I say all the time, if we don't get involved to elect the leaders that represent the beliefs and the morals and things that we hold to, what we're saying is it's okay for people that don't hold those to run the country and make all the policies and decide where all the funds get spent. So first of all, that's a big thank you. That second, I'm so happy, elated the way the election went, the way it looks like the country's going. But let's not forget that this win doesn't mean we get to go sit on the couch now. This win means that we now have as being a Navy guy and an ex-sailor, we have the wind in our sails. And so let's turn into the wind and really work hard to reach this country for Christ, because that is the real core issue here. I'm happy we're going to have a friendly government. I'm happy and hopeful that the weaponization of the government's going to go away. I'm hopeful that corporate America is going to wake up. But if we don't keep our voice going, then not all of that will go to the wayside. And at the end of the day, this is a spiritual battle. It's not a political, it's not a personal, it's not one group against the other. It's a spiritual battle for the hearts, the souls, and the minds of people. And while we want to see people's temporal lives to be as comfortable as they can be, what we're really concerned is where they're going to spend eternity and what they're going to say when they stand in front of their Creator. And that's what, as Christians, we have to remember.
And really, Troy, that's National Religious Broadcasters. And by the way, I don't know how many shameless plugs, probably not enough, I put in for this organization. I'm on the board. Big Stu was one of the people that nominated me on the board. Uncle Ed, Salem Media, Truth Network. I mean, our family is fully bought in. But some of our listeners might think, well, that's just where Stu disappears from the airwaves for a week of the year to go to board meetings somewhere in Nashville or Texas or D.C., and then he comes back. Or that's just some group that's got a big building in D.C. like other people, and we don't know what they do. But friends, you would not be hearing my voice right now. I'm in Washington, D.C. right now with all these amazing thought leaders. I'm looking at two of them right here in our studio audience and all these other folks, major leaders on the Hill, congressmen, senators. But you wouldn't be hearing my voice right now. There would be no access if it weren't for groups like NRB, National Religious Broadcasters. Why do I keep saying that? So you'll put it on your prayer list and you'll put it on your financial support list, because they're trying to make a difference. Troy, talk about how important this is so that we can even have this interview right now without some Gestapo putting us in a car and disappearing from our families and being executed.
Well, NRB is really the only group right now that advocates specifically on behalf of Christian communicators. That's Christian broadcasters, radio, television, all things digital, Christian filmmakers, publishers, podcasters, bloggers, you name it. If you're in Christian communicators, even churches, we have a number of member churches to make sure that they can still do what God has called them to do, the ministry God has called them to do in the public place. And so we look at all the legislation that comes through Congress to say, is this legislation going to be friendly? Is it going to be hostile? Is it going to inhibit? Is it going to create more barriers? Are there more regulations? We do this with the Congress. We do this with the FCC. We do this now with the FTC. And, of course, now we have to watch almost everybody. Health and Human Services wanted to make some changes last year. Would have taken away the rights of the way Christians hired employees for their organization. So we look at all of those things. So it's very important. And then, of course, we have a hostile corporate America. We're working very hard to get into the boardrooms of corporate America so they understand the large audience. There are 192 million viewers and listeners to Christian programming across this country. So we listen to those. We want Congress to know who those folks are and who that audience is. And then, of course, we take certain organizations to court. We have 2 lawsuits right now. We're taking both the FCC to court and the IRS on 2 things that we look at that are infringements on the rights, on the religious rights of Christian broadcasters.
That's Troy Miller, president of NRB, and really an accountability group to hold the incoming administration. I mean, you not only told people to go vote your faith, vote your values. It's interesting. You don't have to tell people how to vote or who to vote for. You really don't. I mean, I'm not saying don't, but you tell people to, hey, go to the book and let God tell you who to vote for based on values, not personality, not propaganda, not all the clever cliches and all the ads. And really, that's what NRB did. You told, we flooded the airwaves with all these cool pastors that did these neat PSAs. But Troy Miller, you are going to hold the Trump administration accountable to protect free speech. What are some of the key things that we need to be praying for you in that role? Because you are right there and you have access.
Well, first of all, like you said, just in prayer, so that we have influence that we can do across these. But one of the biggest things is the impediments is the weaponization of government. And so we, President now-elect Trump spoke at the NRB convention this last February. He made a number of promises and policy statements. If you haven't seen that, you should go listen to it. That were his commitment to a Christian-friendly government. And so we're just going to, hold them to those ideas. So we really think that we're going to have groups there to work with that's going to help us today to make this country more righteous and rather than to make it more unrighteous.
Right. And by the way, this is going to sound really kind of out there, but the NRB and the Constitution and what we stand for in our country is actually, we are, in a sense, a friend of the minority, the Muslim, the LGBTQ, because we say, come to America and exercise your free speech. We're not putting people in prison because of that, but we're also saying, wait, let's keep this free and let's not censor people because they disagree with you. Troy, speak to that and how important that is. The freedom of speech, it swings both ways.
It does swing both ways. And look, when conservatives cover the freedom of speech and cover the First Amendment, we do, and Christians, we speak from a position of love. Okay, we understand that, the gospel message can stand up against any message, so we're not afraid of anything. So we speak the truth in love. I often say that the lefts, they speak lies and hate, and that's really the difference between the two worldviews we have going on out there. We have to look at, we want the freedom of speech. That is the pillar and the foundation of this country. If we lose the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, an independent press, not a propaganda press, but the freedom of the press, the freedom to assemble, and the freedom to petition the government here, if we lose that, all the other freedoms fall. And the bulwark behind that holds that up, and a lot of people don't understand, is the Second Amendment. That's the bulwark that holds the First Amendment up. So, but again, as Christians, our concern is the welfare of people in this country and that the truth gets out. We think if you speak the truth, people can make their own decisions. Apostle Paul himself said when he was sharing the gospel and people rejected the gospel, Paul said, look, my hands are clean. I did my job. I shared the gospel. He didn't say, okay, now you people need to, convert or have your heads chopped off. He said, I had a chance to share the truth and people made their decisions.
Wow. And I love what you said earlier off mic, and I think you'd be fine with me saying it here, and that is that it would be very sad for someone to be spot on with conservative values, pro-marriage, pro-family, and all those things, but not have Jesus in their heart. And we don't just want a country that is a country that's free and that exercises that. We want a country that comes to Christ. We want a country that's sending missionaries out. And that's a very personal thing for everyone listening. being a conservative, just like going to church, does not make you a believer. Being a conservative does not make you a believer either. And that's really the ultimate passion. Speak to that as we close, Troy, and tell our listeners how they can pray for you in NRB.
Right. You're exactly right. Look, all that we do here in this temporal environment, we want to do because God has called us as leaders to bring about a country and a community and a culture that brings glory to Him. But at the end of the day, we'd be completely wrong and saddened if we didn't have somebody who could stand in front of God at the judgment day and said, "My sins have been covered by Christ." If they hear the words from God, "I know you not," then we have all failed. We want them to hear the words, "Welcome, thou good and faithful servant." So pray for us, pray for all the Christian broadcasters, this radio station, and everybody out there who is bringing that message to America and around the world.
Yeah, if you want to have a good time, I mean a real good time, come to NRB's convention, nrbconvention.org. I invite first-timers all the time. They walk in. They walk out wowed, blown away. Powerful speakers, powerful music. Troy Miller is going to address the general conference. We have some leading politicians who come to speak specifically to religious liberties and to these things. We really give a lot of attention to the suffering, persecuted church abroad, to really love on them. Troy, the website, people can find out more about this wonderful organization, NRB.
nrb.org. So just go to nrb.org. You can track all that we're doing, and you can follow us on Twitter at NRB Association or at NRB CEO.
Truth Talk.